Hi, good day all of you. Welcome to our session. Welcome to our channel Intelligible Tutorials. In this today's session now we are going to discuss about the transaction flow testing techniques. In my previous video I told already regarding the introduction of the transaction flow testing and what are the various kinds of the junctions that we will use in the transaction flow testing like ordinary junction, absorption, conjugation, etc, etc. Okay, so pictorially also we have seen various kinds of this junction, absorption, and conjugation um, complications. Okay, so now we are going to see what are the various transaction flow testing techniques. Okay, so normally the complicated systems which are having various kinds of the transactions that requires a lot of process and as well as and various kinds of the complicated transactions that it can have and some other kind of the representations of the transaction flows, the various kinds of different types of the representations also they can have, and sometimes they may have the equivalent representations also. So all these things occur in the complicated systems like complicated transactions, various kinds of different kinds of the transactions we have to process, like explicit representations and various kinds of the transaction flows. Okay, now what is a transaction flow? The transaction flow is nothing but some kind of the control flow graphs, how the transaction flows from initial state to the end state, the lifetime of the transaction, how it will execute, how it will work, all these things, and consequently various kinds of the levels. We should expect to have them in the increasing levels of detail. Okay, so what are the various levels of the transaction, all these things we see. Okay, next, normally we see various kinds of the transaction flow techniques. These follow some kind of the various kinds of the methods. Those are nothing but the system reviews is the first one, and the second one is inspections, and the third one is the walkthroughs. Okay, so these things already known to us. The system reviews, what are the various kinds of the system reviews, and what are the various kinds of inspections, and what are various kinds of the walkthroughs. Now we see the system reviews. What is the meaning of the system review actually? Actually, the system review is nothing but a meeting conducted by the head of the project, who can have the meeting, who can have the opinions of all the stakeholders who are participating in that particular project or in that particular ongoing task, whatever it is. So normally these system reviews can be conducted weekly or monthly or twice in a month, whatever it is according to the requirement they will conduct. So normally the system reviews can have what is the progress, they can have the details like what is the progress, how much the entire system development is progressing. Okay, what are the various things completed and what are the things to be completed, what are the various kinds of the testing techniques to be further implemented. All these things can be conducted by using these system reviews. Okay, so system reviews can be conducted by the development phase and as well as the testing phase. But coming to the testing phase, what are the various kinds of the test designs can be used, what are the various kinds of the test cases can be implemented so far, and what are the test cases to be implemented in future, all these things clearly in the meeting they will discuss. Okay, so system review means till now what is the progress so far, what is the progress, such kind of the information can be taken by all the stakeholders or by all the testers who involved in particular system testing. Okay, next, we are talking about the next one is inspections. What are the various kinds of the inspections? So what is inspection actually? It is also one kind of the review. That means we can have some another additional things also in the inspections. So what are the things those are not there? They can suggest, they can mention the things which are not there in the inspection. Okay, so further reviews or further inspections, these things must be implemented, and these things should be implemented whatever suggestions they made in one particular inspection. Okay, so select, we see some of them. What are the things to be considered in the inspections? The first one is select additional flow paths, loops, extreme values, and domain boundaries. If at all, whatever things those are completed, that is okay. If at all those are not required, we have to select some additional flow paths for the loops, and you have to use some kind of the extreme values and some extreme domain boundaries. And if at all it is necessary, we design some more test cases also to validate all the births and all the deaths of the test paths or all the test cases. And the third one is we have to distribute all these test paths to the transaction flows as early as possible, so that they will exert the maximum beneficial effect of the project. So whatever decision made, whatever decision have taken, whatever new things are added, whatever new decisions, whatever new suggestions are added, those must be as early as possible distributed to all the members. Those must be as early as far as possible. These must be shared to all the stakeholders who are involved in this particular project, so that they can work their progress, so that and they can improve the performance, so that the finally the entire project will be benefited maximum. Okay, so like that you have to do these things in the inspection. So apart from the system reviews, inspections are completely different one. We can have some extra additional things to be added while working with the inspections, like additional flow paths for loops and adding extreme values and domain boundaries. Okay, so this is nothing but the inspections. And we are going to talk about the third one, that is nothing but walkthroughs. Walkthroughs means from the initial state onwards to the up to the state. That means so far whatever the things we have come across, what are the things we have completed, how many test cases we have designed, how many test cases we have completed, what are the paths we have completed, what are the flows we have used, what are the flows we have completed. All these things can be clearly observed in the walkthroughs. Okay, so here we are talking about, we are discussing about various kinds of the transaction types, and what are the various kinds of the transaction types, what are needed for our system. Okay, and we are also going to discuss about flows, our functional flows, and as well as the technical terms. Okay, so not only technical terms, we are here firmly discussing about the functional flows, and we are relating the flow of the specification and in a way to show the transaction how it is directly and indirectly follows the requirements. Okay, so we are asking the designers according to the requirements, whatever transaction we are testing, is it meeting the specifications or not. So while designing the system prior itself, we are making some kind of the requirements, and we are using some kind of the document that is called as system requirement specification. So in that system requirement specification, it requires all the functionalities, it shows all the functionalities of the system. So here what we are doing, whatever transaction we are making, whatever transaction we are going to executing, is it up to the mark or not, is it up to the mark of meeting the requirements or not, we are asking the designers. Okay, if okay, then we move further, or else if we stop there itself and we can remodify that particular walkthrough. Okay, so everything is completely focusing on the system requirements. So whatever thing we are doing while testing also, that is that should not violate the requirements. It should meet the requirements directly or indirectly, whatever it is, but it should not violate, or it should not cross the requirements. So that's why we have to once again ask the designers according to the SRS document, the transaction is designed or not, it is executing or not, it is testing or not. Okay, so this is nothing but the walkthroughs. So these are the various kinds of the things that we come across. Those are system reviews, inspections, and as well as the walkthroughs. Next, we are going to talk about the next one is path selection. Already we are familiar with this path selection. So what is the meaning of the path selection here is we are selecting the path coverage as usual, that is C1 plus C2. That should be covered from the first onwards. We are talking about what is the C1 plus C2. Okay, So this criteria we are going to use here for entire path selection, and we are checking for the set of the paths are particularly covered or not for all the transactions, especially for functionally sensible transactions. And we are finding the most important path, that is most tortuous, longest, strangest path from the entry to the exit of the transaction flow. So we are trying not only the easy transaction flow paths, we are trying also to find the most tortuous path, which is the longest path, and as well as the strangest paths. These are existing or not, we are also selecting for this. So path selection is very important one. The branch testing and path testing here we are going to talk about. Okay, is the entire paths are correctly covered or not, and we need to identify the some kind of the longest, strangest and tortuous paths also, starting from the entry to the exit of the transaction flow. Okay. Next, we are going to talk about the path sensitization now, the second technique. What is the meaning of path sensitization? If at all we find the solution of the transaction flow, we find the entire solution for that particular transaction flow, we find the goal, then that path is achievable path. Or else we can say that path is not achievable path or not sensible path. Sensible path means what? It covers all the things and finally it meets the required output. Okay, or required solution. Then we can say that is the sensitized path. Okay, so most of the normal paths are very easy to sensitize. Normally, totally 80 to 95% transaction flow coverage is very easy to achieve and very easy to sensitize, right? Okay, but at least if 5 10 to 5 20 to 15% of the paths are not sensitized and those are not achievable paths. So those are very difficult. We have to identify such a paths which are not sensible easily and which are not achievable easily. Next, we are going to discuss about the path instrumentation. So, what is the meaning of the path instrumentation actually? This path instrumentation, we have to confirm that, means we have to confirm that whether that particular path is achievable or not, the solution is right or not. Okay, so here the instrumentation plays a bigger role of the transaction flow testing, okay, than the unit path testing. In the path instrumentation, the information path taken for one transaction must be kept with the transaction and we have to record by the central transaction dispatcher by the individual processing modules. That means we are recording the transaction. Okay, the information path, whatever path is going covering by that particular transaction, that can be recorded by the central transaction dispatcher or individual processing modules. So for that, if at all another execution, we can say if at all any mistakes are arising, we can easily identify while recording that particular path. The mistakes are there, we can easily identify in that execution of the path. So it is always better to record the particular path, sorry, the particular transaction where it is going to be executed. Okay, so this is path instrumentation. Okay, so these are the techniques that we are going to use in the inspections, reviews and walkthroughs. Path sensitization, path selection, path sensitization and path instrumentation are the various kinds of the testing techniques that we will use in the transaction flow testing techniques. Okay, so keep a eye on all these various kinds of the transaction testing techniques while talking about the transaction testing techniques or transaction flow testing techniques. In the coming videos, we talk about some more topics of the software testing methodologies. So please subscribe my channel Intelligible Tutorials for more videos and for more subjects. If at all anybody didn't subscribe till now, please subscribe my channel. Thank you once again. Thank you one and all.